yearning wherever you wanna go. I'm gonna walk by your side for everything I'm worth. And if the journey makes you stumble or the road is far too long, then backwards we will wander. I will never turn around, 'cause I know everything you said, everything you've done, whatever you want, whatever you need, rely on me.
Rely on me. It's our friend John Magnuson from Stockholm, Sweden. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Craig Lockard. I'm the lead host of the podcast, the Recruiter Podcast. I'm also the youngest man in the car business. And today's show hopefully is going to be fun for you and hopefully some educational. Tell some stories, want to hear some from you. Be pretty interesting. I hope at least that is our goal today. So the name of today's podcast is Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover. So we're going to start with my hockey haircut. This is a hockey haircut. This is not a mullet. This is a hockey haircut. There's a big difference. And if you notice, we got most of the power in a hockey haircut comes from the back. I don't know if everyone knows this or not, but most of the power comes from the back, and that's what I'm trying to grow out now. The front's growing quite well. It's going to get longer. It is my pandemic hairstyle. So don't judge. Don't judge, but it is a hockey haircut. Speaking of that, on the other side of the glass today, we have producer Porn Stash Dave.
What's up, everybody? No, you can see me now.
Good morning, Dave.
What's going on?
So, dude, it was a few weeks ago. So, no, actually, I think it was the first show back after we were allowed to open back up here after All Systems Go AV. Awesome place that you should be doing your podcasting or any video production work. They do a lot of stuff. So reach out to me to get a hold of people at the people at All Systems Go AV. They're top notch, like legit top notch. But at any rate, when we first did our first show back, Joe and I came up, my son Joe Lockard and I came back up. And during the pandemic, to date, Dave had decided to grow a mustache. And the first thing we said was, oh, Porn Stash Dave. And it was based on, and we were just kidding a little bit before we started the broadcast of the show today. It's like, 2.5, 3 inch piece of hair above his lip, and our judging our thoughts on the cover basically immediately go to Porn Stash Dave. Right?
Yeah, and it was, similar to you. I'm just growing it out in quarantine, did it like for Cinco de Mayo, and then just decided to keep it. Wife likes it, so,
hey,
just going to keep it going.
Happy wife, happy life. She obviously is into porn stars, so, that's cool. That's not nice. Could be true, but it's not nice. But I like it, dude. However, like you mentioned, you didn't shave down the rest of your face, so you got stubble.
Oh, I know. I wish I did, because then you get the full experience. Right now, you just get like a taste.
Right.
You can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it was totally. Well, you got a camera in there? Let's take a look at it.
Yeah. I've been switching back and forth.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
People could see.
Okay. Cool. All right. That's cool. Dude, that's too good. That is too rich. What am I doing here? I got to post this somewhere. Oh, there you are. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you got me.
I mean, what do you think? Porn star Dave? Is what I'm thinking. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, my wife thinks I'll look too young if I shave it now, so I feel like I have to keep it for a little while.
Dude, you do look young. I mean, you really do. I'm the youngest man in the car business, but you look like you look like you're 20 years old, for God's sake.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's
I'll
crazy.
be 32 in August.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Who's watching this show? Anybody watching? I can't tell. Yeah, people are watching, but why can't I say them? So.
2 in August.
Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. So what I'd like today, I'm going to tell some stories, and we're going to do judge a book by its cover, and we're going to take it from a lot of different avenues. The first thing I wanted to do, though, is I wanted to establish the origin. I think it's interesting, at least to me. Hopefully it is to you, the origin of the origin of some of these things, quotes, cliches, and so forth, and where they came from. And if Dave, if you could Google up origin of "Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover," I'm assuming there's probably a few. Is there? Can you find a couple and read them and see? Let's see where this madness started.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes up on Google is from a website called gingersoftware.com.
Okay.
First thing, the phrase is attributed to the 1944 edition of the African journal American Speech, "You Can't Judge a Book by Its Bindings."
Huh.
It was popularized even more when it appeared in the 1946 murder mystery In the Glass Room by Lester Fuller and Edwin Rolfe. You can never tell a book by its cover. And then if you go to Wikipedia...
And what year was that? Wait a minute. What were years? So in the African journal...
1944 for the African journal, 1946 for the murder mystery novel.
Okay. Interesting.
And then early reference on Wikipedia goes back to 1860. It says, in George Eliot's The Mill on the Floss, Mr. Tolliver uses the phrase in discussing Daniel Defoe's The History of the Devil, saying how it was beautifully bound. Not too sure how that relates, but their second bullet point then references the 1946 murder mystery novel, same as the other one, but doesn't mention the African journal in Wikipedia.
That's kind of interesting in a number of different ways. So don't judge a book by its cover. So, you think about it as a way to express a thought, and that's been, in my mind, 1944 was, like last week. So you think that's been around for ages and ages and ages, but actually it's relatively recent phrase, but we've heard it over and over and over again. And it's so important. And I think in today's climate, if you will, it's very important. It's important in everything we do. Obviously, I'm one of the owners, the principal owner of AutoMax Recruiting and Training. And it's one of the very first things that we teach. Now, what we have been doing at AutoMax Recruiting here is we're going every 2 weeks, and we're putting together a basic theme that our digital marketing is based on, our social is based on, our social media presence, everything, some of the videos that we put out, Joe Lockard's Live at 5 every Friday, and obviously today's podcast and so forth. So we're trying to take a 2-week period of time, come up with a central theme that we feel will be helpful to people in both hiring, life hacks, managing and running car dealerships, working in a car dealership, and so forth, and trying to make them relevant and make that a 2-week theme. Makes it easier for everyone, the 30 people or so involved in AutoMax, to be able to follow, to be more engaged in social media and so forth. So that's what we decided to do, and we're a little over a week into Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover. So let me start here. 1981, July, hot, humid, Akron, Ohio. I'm the general manager of a rather large Chevrolet, single point Chevrolet dealership. It's a hot, sunny, beautiful, humid Ohio afternoon. And this girl walks into the showroom. Now, I've told this story on stage at, 50 or 60 different presentations I've given. I've talked about this story when I train new trainers. Probably every one of our trainers, most of the staff have heard this story. I don't think I've ever talked about this story on the podcast. But this girl walks into the showroom, and you know all the cliches, showstopper, stunning, probably the word hot. I don't even know the words I'm allowed to use and not allowed to use anymore, frankly. But just stunning. Now, let me paint you a full picture of it. She has no shoes on, tan. Now, you got to remember the time period, 1980 or 81. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. She walks in, the entire place stops. Like legit Daisy Dukes. And back in the day, some girls wore those shirts where they were tied up, where their tummy showed. Long blonde hair, blue eyes that were like from an ocean. And the whole place stopped. Now, to give you an idea of the layout of this dealership, is the GM, and back in the day, this was a very large store. So I had an actual, when you talk about a tower, I had an actual glass tower overlooking a vast showroom. We had between 30 to 40 salespeople, depending. A lot of turnover. We flipped them a lot back then. And 11 managers perhaps. It was a large organization. In the system that I ran back then, a selling strategy was through a company called APB, Automotive Profit Builders. There's probably some people out there that can remember them, maybe still use them. They're still around. Back then, it was the system, if you would, to use. It was very specific, a lot of moving parts. And part of the system or the strategy was to have what were called greeters all over the dealership. And they were typically young women, would meet and greet every single client that would walk in the showroom or walk in the used car lot, or walk anywhere, walk through service, whatever. And I'd have 3 minimum, mostly 4 minimum, sometimes as many as 6 on the property at a time, because it was a huge piece of property as well. So if you walked in, so the showroom were one of those old style Chevy showrooms. You had a big front door, 2 huge end doors where we'd pull the cars in and off the showroom. Right next to the front door was a huge receptionist area, desk. Then, 15, 20 feet in was a podium and then 2 chairs. And that's where the main greeter would be stationed. And then behind that were 4 offices where we had an up rotation at the time, and those people then would be on the phone making and taking calls, and then chairs in front of them for the when they were up next. So the top 5 or 6 in the rotation were always available for phone or walk-in traffic. And back then there was a lot of more walk-in traffic, busy store, so on and so forth. So she walks in, and the entire place stops. And I'm watching this. I caught it out of the corner of my eye. I'm watching this from this big glass office of mine overlooking this whole monstrosity of a car dealership. All right, so that's a bit of a tease. So before I get back to the story, let me say this, that AutoMax, in part, the Recruiter Podcast is brought to you by AutoMax Recruiting and Training.com and Max Safe Consulting. I want to talk about these two companies just real quick because we do have to pay some bills and they help pay for it. So AutoMax Recruiting and Training, been around 23 years, over 19,000 automotive recruitment campaigns completed, nearly 180,000 women and men placed into car dealerships in the U.S., Canada, and Puerto Rico. On and on and on. We recruit for every position in a car dealership, literally every single position. Something that we added recently, for obvious reasons, is remote recruiting and training. By remote, I mean Zoom interviews, training, everything that we would do typically if we were at your dealership, if one of our recruiter trainers was at your dealership. Literally every single thing that we do on site at a dealership that we've done for 23 years, we've set it up. We have the technology, the ability, the training. We've gone over this. We've done a bunch of them. We can do all of that remotely. If that's something, as you as a dealer feel more comfortable with, we have the ability to do that. Obviously, you're going to save a little money because there's no travel involved. So that comes out of the equation in terms of the overall investment on your part. So when you call or write us or what have you, you reach out to one of the trainers or so forth, ask about remote recruiting. I think it's interesting. I'm going to screw these numbers up. And Anthony Santangelo's in a deal right now, and he said something on here. He had to go back into his training. And I'm going to screw this number up. But I think, and maybe not, maybe this was the case. Now this sounds ridiculous. But he did something like 7 recruiting campaigns in 2 to 3 weeks, because he was able to do some of them on a remote basis, sitting at one of his homes. And some he did on site. So for the trainers, it's awesome. For the dealer, it's potentially awesome. There's really no glitches in it. Everyone feels safer, if you would. So it's a personal preference, obviously, on your part. One thing I do want to go over real quick, and I've gone over this several times, and I'll get back to the story with the hot girl coming in the showroom here in a minute. It's still a tease. One thing I do want to go over is you'll see in a lot of our posts, our Facebook posts, and we're getting a little bit away from Facebook, and we're going more to LinkedIn, just to let everybody know. And I'm just tired of the chatter on Facebook, frankly, and some of the drama and some of the censorship and so forth. That's a whole other thing I won't get into. However, we are changing a little bit to using LinkedIn more as a platform. But if you'll notice, all of our current classes that we're running, the trainers bring, make sure they have available, masks, plural. You know, I know that's a bad word to some people, but I want to go over this with you so you understand. Masks, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer, social distance in a room, social distance during the interview process, and so forth. Now, there's several reasons. A lot of the dealerships that we walk into, some wear masks, some don't. Some of the clients are wearing masks, some are not. It doesn't matter to us. I have a very strong opinion of this whole thing, as do a lot of people. I would say most people. I want to come at this 2 different ways. one is reality, and the other one is probably unprovoked or provoked fear. Here's the reality, and I've talked about this before. This is the last time I'll talk about it. When you see pictures of our crew, of these men and women that are brave sons of guns, traveling the country, doing what they do, getting on airplanes, staying in hotels, walking into dealerships they know nothing about if they've been there the first time. They don't know how the place has been disinfected. They don't know. They are, to a certain extent, depending on what you believe, taking their health into their own hands, or the hands of other people too. So that's one of the reasons we came up with the remote recruiting, is to help also protect our staff. I've not had one person reach out to me. However, I have a feeling, could be paranoia, I could be totally wrong. I venture to say that some people look at the enormous amount of posts that we make with pictures of these classrooms and go, those wimps, they bought into this mask thing. They bought into this whole thing. Yada, 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 yada. Here's reality, ladies and gentlemen. It's already happening. I've mentioned this in talking to my lawyers and so forth. There's a liability issue. There's a liability issue that ultimately could come to AutoMax that I don't want any part of. But there's a liability issue on the dealer. Best case scenario, a customer or not, a person posing as a customer. Remember, we live in a very unique world right now. Duh. A person walks into your dealership, they feel uncomfortable in your dealership because no one's practicing social distancing, there's no hand sanitizer, nobody's wearing a mask, and no one gives a crap, and it's just a free-for-all. And it's like, everything's fine, there's nothing happening. And that's fine if you want to live your life that way, that's cool. You want to run your dealership that way, dude, it's your dealership. Run it however you want. However, be aware of this, that there are some sick people out there. And that person could either be intentionally or unintentionally walking into your dealership with one thing in mind. They're going to walk in, they're going to feel unsafe, they're going to leave. At best case scenario, they go on Dealer Rater, Yelp, whatever, and say, I didn't feel safe in there. They didn't practice this. Nobody wore masks, yada, yada, yada. You get a bad review based on nothing other than not paying attention to these things. Our lawyers have told us that the average settlement fee right now, and this has become a whole cottage industry, and I know this is sick and it's unfortunate and it sucks, but it is real world. The average settlement on these types of cases, because what's happening is, again, people are looking for a payday, will walk into a dealership, maybe with an intention of looking at a car, typically not. They'll walk into enough dealerships till they find one that's said, screw everything. The whole thing's made up. There's no such thing as coronavirus, and we're not buying into it, and so be it. The average settlement figure is $54,000, is what these cases are bringing, on average. So he or she leaves the dealership, immediately calls a lawyer. I went to a place, I felt unsafe, I want to sue. Lawyer goes, okay, no problem. Here's the fee, or $400, $300 an hour, whatever they charge. That particular attorney charges. Those attorneys probably charge a little bit less because they're kind of chasing ambulances a little bit. But that's what can happen. Be aware. And I know we can get deep into constitutional rights and so on and so forth. I'm just telling you the real world and what's happening across the country, because we're everywhere every week. We're everywhere. We're 106 dealerships last month. 103 rather. 3 less than we were the previous June. So we have a pretty good handle on this stuff. So when you see those pictures, and I'm not apologizing for them, I'm telling you why we're doing it. So don't judge that book by its cover. We're there to protect you, the dealer. That's part of our job. It's part of what you signed up for when you decided to bring us into your store. Or again, like I said, if you want to remotely, the next thing I'll move on to, and there's more to come. We got some stuff, man, that's going to blow your mind that we've been working on for a while. A little more difficult than we thought, but we got some stuff coming up that's going to revolutionize how automotive recruitment is done. The other company I want to talk about is relatively new. It's called MaxSafe Consulting. MaxSafe Consulting consists of right now 5 services. 4 of them are in full-blown go-ahead mode, bringing in money and helping people mode. We carry PermaSafe. We're an agent, going to be a distributor of sorts here shortly. PermaSafe is the number 1 disinfectant, cleaner, mold, mildew, antimicrobial product on the market. It is amazing. The studios have been done. I just did my home finally the other day. Just got around to getting product at my house and a fogger and so forth and doing my home. And it's pretty cool. And you want to make your customers and employees feel safer. Our relationship with PermaSafe puts us in a position to be able to do that for you in a lot of different ways. They've come out and they've pivoted, so they have a lot of different things that we weren't able to offer even, 3-4 weeks ago. So reach out about that through MaxSafe Consulting. My son Joe is the founder and president of that company. I'm the vice president. Ernie's also a member of the board of that company. Also in that company, we have a way to find warranty dollars that you've not received from your OEM. That is your money. It's either been miscalculated, not applied for incorrectly, what have you. We'll find you that money, and it's a bunch in a lot of cases. Something you need to look into. And Rob Gehring is the owner of that particular company that we're representing. And Rob Gehring is one of the brightest fixed ops guys in the country, in my opinion. He's just an amazing guy. And he lives on Lake Erie in Ohio and Cleveland, so that makes it even better. In the land. We have a product that's, I'm going to put in air quotes, sold in the F&I office that has to do with setting up your monthly payments more in accordance with how you get paid. And it's a product that literally doesn't cost anything to the consumer. It's a nice profit opportunity for the F&I office, the way it's set up. And you shorten the term. You're able to knock off a crap load of interest, put the customer in an equity position sooner, just a million advantages to it. And we've also put into MaxSafe Consulting our relationship with Automotive HR and our buddy Stephen Werner, a fully automated recruitment site, an onboarding site, an electronic onboarding. It's second to none. And that's under the MaxSafe Consulting banner, if you will, as well. So those are some of the things that how we get paid here. So I thought I'd mention those. And hey, Parker Yoakum's on. Stephen Warner, I just talked about you. He's on. All you guys are on. That's cool. The Beast from New Bern, South Carolina is on. I'll tell you what. If you guys here, write this down. If you guys see Seana, last name Corsale. I'm telling you right now, you remember this woman. She is going. If I can't get her to come to work for AutoMax, which is a long shot, and I mean, I'm publicly making this offer to her right now, in front of what will end up being 5,000 or 6,000 people that end up viewing this thing. She'll own a dealership someday. She's unbelievable. They're a client of ours, and she is sharp as a tack. And just an awesome person. We got a bunch of really cool people on here today. So I'm going to be telling a bunch of Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover stories. If you guys have some, throw them in there. I'll read them, and we'll discuss them as the show progresses. So back to this hot young girl that walks into the showroom. So everyone freezes. This girl was so stunning that even the greeters, who were female, they stopped. And everyone's staring at this woman. Now, she walks in. Again, I'll go back to those of you that didn't hear the beginning of it. Daisy Dukes, shirt tied up here, tan, blonde hair, sky blue eyes, blah, blah, blah. No shoes. Early 20s, maybe. So, and I'm looking from this glass tower, and no one's doing anything. No one's making a move. No one's approaching her. No one's greeting her. And we had, right outside the customer waiting area for service, we would have one Corvette there, and the rest, and we sold a bunch of Corvettes back then, and we'd have the rest of the vets in a gated area with the rest of the new car inventory off to the side of the service facility. Again, it was a big dealership. And so she's doing laps. She's walking around this Corvette. No one is moving. Not a soul. Now, I think first it was because she was so aesthetically pleasing to look at, frankly. I think that was number one. And, let's be real here. When a beautiful woman walks into a car dealership, it's like, for guys, usually, it's like they've never seen a beautiful woman before. It's like, oh my God. It's like, it's just, it amazes me to this day. It's like, wow, look at her. It's like, have you guys not seen pretty girls before? It was like, come on, let's get to work here. So I'm like, no one is approaching this woman. Now, we could go to, okay, she was so beautiful, she's got everyone stunned. And then we could click right into, yeah, Craig, she walked in with no shoes on, Daisy Dukes, her shirt tied up, and she's walking around a Corvette. I mean, really? So we have judged her as not being not being a Corvette buyer. So as I think I mentioned, we had wall phones down there. I mean, this place was set up, man. It was letter perfect. So I'm calling frantically. I'm standing up in my tower, looking down and watching all this happen. And I'm calling on the wall phone down there to get the greeter's attention, to get a salesperson with this girl. Finally, I had to page. Greeter, pick up the wall phone. I said, you better get somebody with this girl right away. Oh, yes, sir. Okay, right away. Guy one of the salespeople walk over to whoever's next up, and she's, I'm talking about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. By the time he gets to her, she's walking away from the Corvette and towards the front door and basically waving him off. Okay? So I'm pretty pissed off. So I go down there and let everyone know, half a dozen people, look, I want everybody logged. I want everybody greeted, blah, 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 blah. Because we had a very specific system. There would be cards, and then they'd go into a log. And, back in the day, it was very interesting, very, very, very specific sales strategy system. Next morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, a yellow, brand new Corvette pulls up to the front of the showroom doors. Out of this car comes the same beautiful young woman in a skirt, heels, and a blouse. Stops at the reception desk, which I had mentioned previously was right next to the front doors. She waved off the greeter, and they pointed up to my office. I said, oh boy, here we go. So I'm ready. She walks in. Hi, I'm going to leave the name out because I still remember it. I said, and she said, are you Mr. Lockard? Yes. And you're the general manager? Yes. Well, I was here yesterday. I said, yep, I know. She said, and I wouldn't. I said, yes, I'll finish the sentence. You weren't approached. You weren't taken care of. She said, well, I left here and went to, and I won't mention the name of the dealership. It was 8 miles away. Back then, they would put Chevrolet dealerships like right across the street from each other. She said, and I bought that car out there. Did you see that yellow Corvette? Yeah. In a half hour. I said, yep. I get it. She said, they probably didn't think I could buy a car. But my uncle and I just won the Ohio lottery. Now, the first lottery in Ohio was 1974, I think. That was the first. I think that's when it started. You guys can Google that stuff. But they won, if I recall, it was $2.5 million. And it was her and her dad or her and her uncle. It was her and some other male family member. And split the money. So she had $1 million. Again, I think this was 1980 or 81. Probably 81 is when I was fully running this place. So I apologized, told her she could bring the car there for service. I'd give her a service loaner at no charge and blah, 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 trying to make up for it. And, she was basically there to just say, nah, 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 nah. You judged a book by its cover, and you were wrong. So what I did immediately was I gathered my 35, 38 salespeople, my 11 managers, and we had a very spirited discussion in the conference room for about 15, 20 minutes where I got to express myself in such a manner to which a situation like that would never happen again. I wonder, do any of you that are listening or watching right now, do you have a similar story that you'd like to post that I can read? And I will do that if you guys do. Now, there's a flip side of don't judge a book by its cover, and that's all that glitters is not gold. Right? Another cliche, another quote. All that glitters is not gold. Sometimes things appear to be a certain way. They're bright and shiny new objects. We think they're great. Aesthetically, on the outside, they're pleasing. But they could have a very dark or black heart. A dark heart. Their character could be less than awesome. But all that glitters is not gold. So where does this come from? Where does this type of judging come from? What does it have to do with the car business, with hiring, with recruiting, and so forth? I'm going to mention this here, like right now. So, it's in my opinion, let's talk about bullying for a minute. I would think, and I think this has been talked about enough, that typically the young bully at school, the 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, it happens, unfortunately, far too much. Typically, there's going to be a kid at school that's a bully. Typically, that kid wasn't born a bully. He was born a baby. You know, all the weird stuff that's going on in the world right now. Sometimes I think we have to sit back and say, you know what? At some point, that person was a baby. So, it's a little off tangent here, but. So bullies, typically, young kids, are bullied at home. So their release typically is to bully somebody else at school. And typically that bullying has something to do with the way that person looks or maybe talks or maybe the color of their skin, maybe the way they wear their hair. They don't have a hockey haircut like mine. They don't have a porn stash like Dave. So the bullying so they judge the book by its cover, and they zero in on a kid, and they start bullying that kid based on the way he or she looks, talks, walks, speaks, acts. They don't know anything about this kid, but they've decided to bully or pick on this kid. How does that affect that child? I would think it would affect that child in a very negative way, typically, depending on what's happened at home and what kind of parenting's happening at home. I would assume that that's pretty bad for a kid. Now, I can tell you this much. When I was a kid, I had just a very weird thing happen to me in like 7th grade, I guess it was, or 6th grade, where over the summer I grew, I think it was like 7 inches. Like my growth spurt was so dramatic that my body literally hurt. I was literally a foot taller than everyone. I was 6'2" in the 6th grade, 5th grade, whatever it was. I was like so people would call me Lurch. So when playing basketball, it was a matter of if I could walk from one end of the court to the other, all they do was throw me the ball. No one could block it or anything, and I just, I'd toss it up there until it went in. And, we'd win games 40-10, and I'd score 30 of the 40 points just because I was a foot taller than anyone else. Actually, as a sidebar, the head basketball coach, the high school coach, actually moved to our neighborhood 3 homes down from ours, built a full court basketball court in his front yard because they thought I was going to be 7 foot tall or something, and they were going to build an entire basketball program around me. Well, what funny thing happened on the way to all that? I stopped growing. I hit 6'3", or just short of 6'3", and stopped. So that kind of sucked. But at any rate, judging a book by its cover with children, it's a tricky deal. We've got to take care of kids that way. Got to take care of them. That's a very real thing. It's dangerous. It's real dangerous. So, Don't judge a book by its cover. Several weeks ago on Facebook, and we as a company have made a decision to try as best we could to stay out of politics, stay out of all that's happening, and focus on positive things, focus on our business, let everybody else go back and forth. Ain't none of you changing anybody's mind. No matter what you post on Facebook, you're not changing anybody's mind. So, but, have at it. But someone's not going to read your post and go, oh, unbelievable. I've been wrong this whole time. Thank you so much for pointing that out. You're spot on, and I'm silly, and I don't know what I was thinking. You're right. You've totally changed my mind. Does not happen. Won't happen. It's at very least very unlikely to happen. However, one day, this was right when George Floyd got murdered. This is when the protests start happening, and kind of simultaneously the violence and the looting and the burning and all that happened. So I happened to get into a conversation with a person I really respect, and she's very well known in the auto industry. And she said some things that I did not agree with. So, against my better judgment, and basically without thinking, frankly, I responded. And we had a brief discussion about, in the recruitment business, profiling based on name. And she cited a study that I actually read, and what she said from the study, what she said, I verified through the study. If you happen to hear this, I'm not going to mention her name, but if you happen to hear this, I did read the study that you quoted. And what you quoted to me was, in fact, in the study. I then pointed out, go ahead and look at our Facebook timeline, look at my Facebook timeline, and go through that timeline. Take 20 minutes. And you tell me, after seeing a couple hundred pictures of our recruiting campaigns held in these meeting rooms, you tell me if we've judged a person by their name, the color of their skin, their zip code, their previous job, which I'm going to get into more, or what have you. Just take 20 minutes and take a look at our classrooms. Then tell me that we're making decisions on interviewing people based on their name. Be easy enough to do, wouldn't it? I mean, sometimes you're going to screw up. But there's some names that are more black than white, more Asian than Hispanic, and so on and so forth. It's not that hard to figure out. But that's silly, and it's against all our principles at AutoMax Recruiting. And I mean all of them. It's against our basic, it's like completely against who we are. 100%. 100%. Now let's talk about this for a minute. And my son made a video, and it's on LinkedIn. You guys should check it out. It's 9 minutes long. Here's the deal. We talk about, and my thoughts have changed a little bit on this. When I first started AutoMax recruiting 23 years ago, and to this day, some of our recruiters say this because that's how I trained them to handle a crowd. And typically, this is the way that it was. We would get in a room, and there'd be 5, 15, 20, 25 people, depending on how many dealerships we were recruiting for in that area. That dealer owned 3, 4 rooftops. Obviously, there's more people in those rooms. And I would always say, and it kind of freaks people out when they're in a room with 20 other people. It's like, well, what's going on here? So I would always try to put them at ease and say, hey, look, some of you are probably figuring out, why am I here? And why am I here with all these other people? And I'd say to them, you're looking at each other. I said, take a good look at each other. Who do you people look like? And typically, most of the time, someone would say, well, we probably look like the customers. And I'd say, yeah, bingo. That's why you're here. It's like the United Nations in here. Like, buy from like, and all of that. Diversity. And I think that is important. I think it is important that our dealership, our forward-facing employees, whether they be service advisors, BDC, because the BDC is changing for sure, or if it's not in your store, it better be. And we do an awesome job of recruiting BDC people. Your sales staff, it's important that they do look like your customers to a certain extent. I think it's also important that your building is diverse intentionally. I think it's also true that like do buy from like. However, got to be careful with this. We as business leaders, as managers in a car dealership or any business, I think we really need to be careful with hiring for diversity. I totally believe in equality of opportunity. Quality of outcome is a whole different thing. But I think we have to be very, very careful, if you really think about it, in hiring just for diversity. Like, okay, I don't have one of those, so I need one of those, I need 2 of these, and I need one of those, and I don't have any of these, whether it be basing your decisions on color, sex, creed, whatever. I don't have any trans people on my showroom. I need a trans person. I don't have any gay people on my showroom. I need somebody that's gay. I think you got to be careful with making those decisions of diversity because, but Craig, you just said like buy from like, salespeople, BDC people, forward-facing employees should look like the people that they're serving. Yeah, I did say that. And yeah, that is important. But what trumps all that is who's best for the job. Who's the most qualified person to work in that service lane? Who's the most qualified person to work in that BDC, however your BDC looks like now, or will look like next month or 2 months from now? Because it's changing. If it's not, it better. shouldn't we be making hiring decisions based on who's best for that job? Diversity important? Absolutely. No question about it. But the number one criteria in hiring is that person a fit culturally? Does that person have the intellectual ability to be able to understand the concepts that we're going to be teaching, the technology that we use? Are they nice people? Are they motivated, passionate, efficient, trainable, coachable? Are they able to be developed? Not based on how their name is spelled, not based on the zip code, not based on the color of their skin, not based on their sex. You know, we can go through, let's talk about women in automotive. I was honored to be one of I think there was 2 male speakers at the first Women Automotive Conference several years ago. I happened to be one of the 2 men that spoke there, which was kind of intimidating. Actually, it was me in a room of 200 women. That was a little weird, but it was cool. But are we hiring women? Should we hire women just to get more women in the dealership? To be more diverse? Because a big percentage of the people that walk into the dealership are female. The number one decision maker in the dealership is female. When they're looking for a car in a male-female relationship or female-female relationship, obviously the female's going to be involved. So statistically, females outsell male counterparts by nearly 22 vehicles a year. So if you take all the stats and data, it's like, hey, we need more women on the showroom floor. Yeah, okay. If you take a look at all that data. However, do we hire that person when there is a male that is more qualified or a better fit for that position? Or do we just hire a woman because she's a woman and we need more women on our showroom floor? Tricky question. Shouldn't be, because we should hire the best employee, the best potential employee, regardless of their sex, their color, and all the other issues. I would go so far as to say this, and my son Joe mentioned this in his video that's on LinkedIn that I alluded to. If you guys can find that, it's a 9-minute video. It's damn good. Maybe someone can find that and put the link in here. That'd be cool. You know what's really aggravating as an automotive recruitment company, and where people judge a book by its cover? Hiring managers, HR people, sales managers, service managers, what have you. This one's going to throw you guys for a big-ass loop. Is their previous job experience. Well, come on, Craig. What else we got to go by here? It's like they have a resume. Here's their jobs that they've had. None of these things match up with what I'm looking for, don't they? Don't they? Look, there are some industries, jobs, careers that we could probably mostly all agree on have a better shot at being successful in the automobile business than others. As a very easy lay-down example, for sales, you would think a server, a good one, would just be more likely to be more successful sooner based on their previous experience as a server. They had to work crazy stupid hours. They got paid for performance, tips. They got small base, if any. And if they sucked, typically, they would not get paid, typically, with tips, commissions. They knew how to be nice. They knew how to work a table. They were efficient. They learned. They were trained, trainable, and they developed into great servers. There happens to be a lot of those people out there that we can get for you right now, frankly. However, and this is an example my son put out there that really hit home with me. So we look at a resume and we're looking for whatever, sales, BDC, I don't know, a service advisor that doesn't need any experience. And on this person's resume, their last job was 3 years as a manager at McDonald's. They're in their early 30s, and they were a manager at McDonald's. And we see the name McDonald's on the resume, and it goes in the round filing cabinet. Like, no thanks. I've never worked fast food, thank God. But I cannot imagine, I truly cannot imagine what that must be like to follow very stringent, very specific rules of how McDonald's wants their stores to be run, and to have to rely on basically 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that this is not a career choice for them. This is their parents saying, hey, this summer you got to go get a job. All right, girl? We ain't paying your car insurance. Go get a job. I don't care where it is. Go work at McDonald's, but you got to go get a job. And they don't want to be there. And that place has got to run like a Swiss watch. They have to be hired, developed, trained, ongoing developed. They have to be, the process is managed. The people have to be inspired. And for a 30-something-year-old or whatever, that manager's age is, doesn't matter really, they have to deal with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, 21, whatever the case might be. People with their frontal lobes aren't fully developed yet. To where everything comes out perfect, that those French fries are perfect, that the orders aren't screwed up, and the toys come out in the Happy Meals, and everything's got to be right. And these people don't want to be there. That 19-year-old kid don't want to be there. But that manager makes that happen. So got to be a thankless job. Now, here we are looking for someone with a good work ethic, with passion, with efficiency, able to develop other people, not afraid of hard work, organized, team player, yada, 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 yada. We see the word McDonald's. We judge a book by its cover. We shit-can that resume. We don't even consider that person. Just based on that. I think it's foolish. I think it's absolutely foolish. We do it with technicians all the time. This tech's worked at 3 stores in 4 years. Don't want to talk to him. Probably should talk to him. Probably should get their side of the story. Some of the ways, not every dealer, not every service director or manager. I'm not beating up on you guys, folks. I'm not. Some treat technicians like crap at a store to this day when they're so vitally important. They judge the way that they look, talk, act, but they forget about those 50, 55, 60, 70 hours a week they're turning. But they just murder them at work every day. Until finally the employee says, screw this, I don't need this. I can work anywhere, man. And he or she is right. They can work anywhere. Until that hiring manager or that service manager or service director gets a hold of that resume and says, well, this guy's worked 3 places in 4 years, man. This guy just hops around. He's just chasing a pay plan and whatever. He's a problem. I don't want to talk to him. Talk to him. Go ahead and talk to him. There's a reason. About 20, I would say 20, let's say 20 years ago, I'm in Akron, Ohio. I'm doing a recruiting campaign for a dealership that literally every single manager in the dealership and every single salesperson in the dealership I had either personally worked for me when I was working in retail, or I had hired and developed, or I had hired as a recruiter when I first started at AutoMax for that dealership. I'm talking about 40 people. Literally every single person in that showroom, in that building, I had been involved with in some form or fashion. I had a young kid come in there one day to interview. And this was a caricature of a 19, 20-year-old kid. Buzz haircut, clip-on tie, the belt that hung halfway down the front of his thigh. His pants were way too low. Imitation Doc Martens. I would have to, I mean, literally, we sit, we used to be 4 to 5 feet away. Now we're 6 feet away. So-called knee to knee, quote unquote, away from the applicant. No desk in between, so we could have an actual conversation. There's nothing physically between us to stop us during our interview process. And I would have to get down like this to catch eye contact with this young man. He was looking at the floor, couldn't look me in the eyes. So I had to start training him during the interview. So I'd go, dude, just pick an eye, pick one of my 2 eyes, and just look at it. While I'm talking to you, just look at it. You'll hear me better if you look at my eye. Just trust me on this stuff. This kid walks into 100 automobile dealerships. Fill out an application. We'll get back to you. Would be about the extent of it. At AutoMax, and this is not a big AutoMax commercial, it's in our opinion, in doing 20,000 of these things, we got some pretty good data to back us up, that we do not judge a book by its cover. We don't judge them by their names when we schedule an interview for them, whether their name is Jose, LaQuisha, Lee Chang, whatever. if it makes sense to schedule them, we're going to schedule them for an interview. Period. And we're going to interview literally every single person that walks into that dealership. Doesn't mean everybody gets hired. It means everyone's going to get interviewed. A lot of those people are going to get invited back for a little extended interview to see how they can handle sales. And then a full-on interview at the end of the week if they haven't already been hired by the dealership. After we've kind of done a American Idol cut type of thing with them. So I invite this kid back to the training. Invariably, and those trainers that are watching or listening or will watch or listen later can attest to this, a lot of times, the overwhelming majority of the time, and I don't know why, this young man or woman, for whatever reason, usually sit front left, like literally on my left elbow. It's just what I happen to notice doing this over the years. So when I was doing this on the road, I would have most improved student. We called them students at the time, but most improved new hire or potential hire. And I would announce it at the beginning of the training, and at the end, everyone would close ballot, vote on who was most improved. And this particular kid, in the first day, the first few hours of the first day, again, he had trouble. He was looking at the table. I'd say, hey, psst, remember, eye contact, dude. Eyes are the windows of our souls, yada, yada, yada. And he'd start perk up. And he'd look. And he'd take a note. And he'd look. And he'd take a note. And he'd look. And he'd listen. At the end of the first day, I sit down with everybody. All our trainers do. Basically, it's, what do you think? Is this for you? Is this something you really feel that you can do with the proper training, the proper onboarding? Do you really think you can do this? I do. Do you? And we come to some sort of agreement, or we don't. We shake hands and, let's have a nice life. I sit down with this kid, and he goes, yeah, I think I can do this. I said, yeah, I think you can too. You got a lot of homework for tonight. I want you to work on something when you come in here tomorrow. I want you to give the same eye contact that you and I have been working on since when you sat down interviewed with me. I want you to give that same eye contact to everybody else in this room. Now, it's not going to be all the same people. I'm going to cut a couple people loose. We're going to do a little culling here, a little culling of the herd. But you're coming back. But here's where I want you to step up your game tomorrow. Because they're judging you by the way that you're dressed, the way that you're sitting, the way that you're interacting. And frankly, I'd like to see you win that award at the end of the week. Fair enough? Yeah. Next day comes in, different kid. Friday comes around. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, it was like a metamorphosis, like a moth becoming a butterfly. Just amazing. A different human being. Aesthetically looked different. Unrecognizable. Spot on eye contact. I swear he grew 4 inches. His shoulders were back. He was intentional in his talk. He used hand movements. Typically, they say if a person talks a lot with their hands, they're telling you the truth, typically. And he was very animated. He blew everywhere. A unanimous choice of most improved. Like, got literally out of 17 people, got all the votes. Ended up salesman of the month. Month after month after month. Ultimately, year and a half later, goes to another dealership, ends up getting a sales manager's job, ultimately calls AutoMax to do now his own recruiting class. Had he gone anywhere else, I think I can say this with all confidence, he would have been told, yeah, fill out application, leave it there, we'll get back to you. Ain't nobody getting back to him. Ain't nobody getting back to him. Based on the way that he looked, carried himself. Can't we develop those people? All these people are not push and play professionals, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot judge these books by these covers. We can't. In regard to race, name, zip code, sex, sexual preference, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, on and on and on. We can't. Who's best for the job? Who can we develop? Who can we bring on the bus and put them in the right seat on our bus to help us get to where we want to get to and be successful? Who can we bring? Who can we do that with? And what criteria do we use? These people deserve a shot, man. They deserve a serious shot. What judge a book by its cover stories do you have? Everyone's got one. Everyone in the car business has that story of the guy pulls in the dealership. Here he's got on work boots with cow shit on him, and he's got overalls on, and he smells to high heaven, and he's whatever, worth $8 trillion. And pays cash for 7 vehicles. Everybody's got that story. Like, everybody has that story. Everybody. I'm running this big dealership in Ohio that I was talking about previously. 2 guys walk in one night. Both have briefcases. Dressed to the nines. Salespeople jump all over them. Looks like a good up. They got 2 briefcases full of cash, $100 bills, wrapped up. Now, this is just around the time where you had to start accounting for anything over $10,000. It had to be accounted for. Long story short, scammers. They were trying to wash this money somehow, some way. So I had to blow them out. We judged all that glitters is not gold. They were judged that way. In 1978, I was a salesman at a huge dealership called Friedman Buick. It's no longer there. It's a hospital now in Mayfield Heights, Ohio. Is that Mayfield Heights or Lyndhurst? Yeah, I think it was Mayfield. Huge Buick dealership. I was the only, myself and the general manager were the only Gentiles in the entire dealership. Well, like, seriously. Sam Salesman was one of the guys' name. Jack Hershey, Dave Morrison. These guys were like beasts. Like, all of them sold 40 to 50 cars a month. Had been there forever. It was me. I was 27 or something, and the next closest guy in age to me was like 140. No, it was like, I don't know, almost 60. It was like, they're all Jewish, 3 times my age. It was quite an education. Quite an education. Again, they had an up system. Young couple walk in, dressed nicely. I don't know, late 20s, early 30s. Very nice appearance. Like, all good. They want to drive a Riviera. I'm up. We sit down, talk a little bit. We had actual porters there, and you paged them, and they would pull a car out of inventory for you. This place was fancy. Bring it into the service department. We had kind of a staging area that we would show the people the car, and then we'd take them for a test drive. So I do that with these people. I qualify them, quote unquote. Everything's fine. They look right. Everything's cool. I drive first, pull out of the dealership, take a left, heading towards a place called Gates Mills, which was our demo route, big fancy homes. We are, I don't know, a quarter a mile away from the dealership, and I feel a piece of cold steel behind my left ear. And she had pulled a gun on me, told me to pull over, and that they were going to relieve me of this particular Buick Riviera, which I let them do real easily. No problem. There's a tag on it, plenty of gas. Have a nice life. See ya. Thank you for sparing mine. And I walked back to the dealership. Pre-cell phones. They looked all right. In judging them by the way they looked, they were car thieves. They put a gun to the back of my head. Sometimes you just can't tell. You just can't tell. How often during the course of the day, how often in your personal life, I've made this mistake way more times than I'd like to admit when it comes to relationships. How often have we made decisions based on who we are going to go out with, date, see, spend time with, based on how they look? How often? Like almost all the time? Is that the right way to do things? Well, I mean, you have to be attracted to a person that you're going to have a romantic relationship with. I mean, that's important, pheromones and all that. But don't you need to be best friends? Don't you really need to be best friends? And does being a best friend with anyone have anything to do with the way that they look? Or their name? The color of their skin? Their sex? Their age? Oh, no, their age. They have to be of age. It's important, ladies and gentlemen. It's vitally important. So, I think, how about this one? Don't judge a book by its cover. What do we do? I think most of us do this every single morning. Do we have a morning ritual? We get up, we go to the bathroom, whatever, brush our teeth. What's in front of us? A mirror. Whose reflection is in that mirror? You, us. That's our cover. Now in the morning, some of us probably look pretty disheveled. So maybe that's not a good time to judge ourselves. But the point is, we don't want to judge ourselves based on how we look in the mirror, the reflection of ourselves in the mirror. Are we as human beings judging ourselves, judging a book by its cover based on a reflection that we see in the mirror? And do we attach our self-worth and how we're going to attack that day, handle the situations that come up during the course of that day based on how we think we look? Knowing our character. Are we going to destroy ourselves knowing that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, yet we're looking at our cover in the mirror and go, oh man, I just don't have it. I'm never going to have it. You know? I've reached a point where I got all these wrinkles. I got all this gray hair. My ears are too big. My skin isn't perfect. My cheekbones aren't high enough. I don't look like so-and-so. I wish I looked like so-and-so. Yeah, I'm just average. And we've judged our own cover. We have to stop doing that. It's so self-defeating. It's so harmful. It's so dangerous. It really is. If anything, flip it around, give yourself a pep talk. You are uniquely made. There's no question about it. You are uniquely made, as are we all. Appreciate that. Appreciate yourself. Love yourself. Don't judge your book, you, by its cover. Now, in saying that, there is, in theory, people that say, take off your clothes. So you're out of shape, you want to get in better shape. All right, I'm going to give you my health regime here pretty soon to fight COVID because I'm such an expert. But a lot of people say, well, you want to change the way that you look? Strip naked, stand in front of the mirror and say, I hate the way I look. I hate it, and I'm going to change it. Okay, that might be a little different. It's a way to motivate yourself for change. Yeah, maybe that works. But to daily beat yourself up based on your cover, not healthy. Not good. Gotta stop it. Be careful of that mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And then she was told so-and-so, and it freaked her out. Don't be that person. Hey, you guys are allowed to talk on this thing, you know. If you want to judge a book by its cover story, I'll read it. It's cool. But it can go either way. These judge a book by its cover stories. They can go either way. The person that looked like they were, you know, a ragamuffin, just all dirty and stinky, and they got a boatload of dough, or the opposite, all that glitters is not gold. It can go either way. There's no question about it. In hiring, in automotive recruitment, it is imperative, ladies and gentlemen, to try to clean your head out of everything, most everything that you've thought of, acted upon, thought made sense in the way that you hired or looked at people before today, going forward. It's important. It's important that we don't judge that book by its cover, whether it be resume, previous job. We've been over this. Color, what they look like. Are they small? Are they short? We short shame people. Taller people sell a bit more. Well, I guess that's statistically true. I've read it a zillion times. But I'll tell you what, in 1981, I had a gay female truck manager that stood 5'1" that was a freaking maniac. And she took us from selling, 40 trucks a month to 100 trucks a month. She was a beast. I didn't judge her on, there was a bunch of stuff to judge her on that probably most dealerships did. And it was like, no, she's the one. I want her. She'll get this thing turned around. And I was right. When I started running this dealership, there were 35 guys there. And I started hiring women. We're talking about early 80s. And people freaked out. Like, are you out of your mind? Do you know what'll happen here? We're going to have lawsuits. We're going to have this. I said, no, we're not. That's not the culture we're going to have here. And we didn't. And they were awesome. When I hired the first gay man there, out very openly gay. Why do you hire this guy? I said, well, he dresses really well. He has a lot of male gay friends. They don't have any children. They have a crapload of disposable income. He knows a lot of other gay men or women in similar situations. And I think this guy is a lay down for $20 a month without taking it up. So get over it. Okay? He's gay. Period. End of story. Develop him. Train him up. Boom. Every day, he'd have people come in and boas and you name it, man. I'm talking about early 80s. This was way outside the box. People thought I was insane. This guy's 250, 275 cars a year, like, bang. Don't judge a book by its cover. Just don't do it. It's silly. It's limiting. Think of it this way. You got 100 potential hires. You have 100 people. We schedule 100 people for you. And I'm telling you, they're going to be all over the map. In regard to backgrounds and, it is the United Nations. And we're going to schedule, let's just say 100 people for you. And out of that 100, we have ghosting and so forth. That's just a natural part of what we do. Let's say we end up interviewing 35 of these people. We end up inviting 20 of these people to go through a sales orientation class or some initial training or what have you. If you go by an older way of thinking, and if you judge each one of those, I forget what number I used, 20. If you judge each one of those people, those 20 people, by their cover, you might hire two. I'm here to tell you, typically those two are going to be the wrong two. Every single week for 23 years and 20,000 of these campaigns, every single week, without exception, without fail, every single time, this is 100%. A dealer, and I'm not bashing dealers, I get it. Trust me, I get it. Will walk over, in other words, bypass the best person, the best new hire in that classroom. Literally every single week. And what do our trainers do? They make a call to a dealer across the street. Hey, you need a guy? You need this woman? She'll come over there and crush it. Like, I'm talking about a no-brainer hire. These people passed on. Sure, yeah, I'd love to talk to her. Bang. Goes there. We have testimonials from people that it's just time after time after time after time. We call them host dealer didn't take them. They're replaced elsewhere. They're selling 40 cars a month. We have one in here. I saw it the other day in a memory. This guy's selling like, I don't know, 450 cars a year, making, I don't know, just under 200 grand, something like that. Was not picked by the host dealer, placed him somewhere else. I believe he was Pakistani. Is that the reason? I'm guessing so. About 15 years ago, should I mention the city? Nah. Let's see. 15 years ago, Middle America, above average size city, we've all heard of. It's actually a basketball team there. In a predominantly black area. I get a phone call on Friday from the trainer. He says, we got a problem. I said, what's the problem? The dealer won't interview any of my, we call them graduates at the time. I said, what? How many do you have? He said, 7. I said, are they good? And this is the conversation. I said, are they good or are they bad? Or, you know, why won't he interview them? It's like you have 7 people, right? And you like them? Yeah, these guys are good to go. It's all guys? Yeah, it's all guys. Was he looking for women? No, not particularly. I said, dude, like, you gotta tell me you're missing it. Why won't he interview them? They're all black. I said, say what? He said, they're all black. I said, this guy openly told you that he won't interview the people that you have because they're black? Yeah. And you're in an area that's 40% black? Yeah. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to, right now, go hang up from talking to me, and you go talk to him and say, here's what the owner of AutoMax told me to tell you. He said to go ahead and you don't have to interview any of these 7 people. We're vouching for them. You're going to go ahead and hire all 7 of these people without interviewing them. You're going to pay us $5,000. Now, this is probably 15 years ago. So, this is 15 years ago, $5,000 for a week of training, pretty good money. We're gonna hit your credit card for $5,000, and I'm staying here for another week of training to make sure that these 7 African American gentlemen are fully trained. The manager said, F you, and tell your boss F you. The trainer said, yeah, he said you're probably going to say that. So what he's going to do then is if you don't do that, and if you make that choice, and it's a free world and it's your dealership, you do whatever you want, he's going to call a local news station, and he's going to have a news crew down here talking about this situation. Is what I told my trainer to tell this guy, because I figured that's probably what he would say. And he did. So, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later, whatever it is, trainer calls me back. He says, I'm staying here for another week for $5,000. And they're all hired, and they're about to do their paperwork right now. So awesome. That's blackmail. But I can't think of a stronger example of judging a book by its cover. It happens to fit a social narrative, obviously, that's going on right now in our country, but just happened to. But it could have been anything. Could have been 7 women, 7 whatever. Don't judge a book by its cover, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be wrong so many times. When I first started AutoMax, it was in my mind that everyone would look like me, quote unquote. They would be taller. They would have similar experience in the automobile industry. They would have similar mannerisms, thought processes, religious belief, a bunch of carbon copies of me. So I brought on Ernie, who looked like Guy Smiley. No, I'm only kidding, kind of. But Ernie's like 6'4", 6'5", similar backgrounds, this and that. Now, Ernie worked out, became a partner. He's been with me 22 years or whatever. But, man, I'm telling you, I screwed up so bad, so many times, judging a book by its cover, trying to find people identical to me. It was wrong. It was wrong. Rather than the content of their upside abilities, I was making decisions solely based on the way that they looked. Solely based on that. Just ridiculous. And these examples are there for us to learn from every single day of our lives. Every single day, we have the ability to not judge a book by its cover. Every single day. I was going to, as props, I was going to bring up a bunch of books today to show you, that. And it was like, everyone gets it. I posted something on LinkedIn. It was pretty that might be a little, there might have been a little controversy with that. As a matter of fact, Facebook wasn't posted for a couple of days. But it had a picture of the cover of Mein Kampf, picture of the Bible, picture of Death of a Salesman. What other books? Animal Farm. I don't know, a couple others. To show different book covers and what was inside those covers. Here's how important it is judging a book by its cover. the amount of money that's spent in terms of artwork, the type of paper used, everything that goes into the actual cover of a hardcover book or even a paperback book, there's more money spent on that than there is on the actual guts, if you would, of the actual book. Why? Because publishers know people are going to judge a book by its cover. When they had bookstores, if you walked into a bookstore, they're not all sitting flat on a table. They're flipped up because they know that cover is going to attract our eyes, and we're more likely to buy that book based on that attractive cover. It's pounded into us everywhere. Television commercials, brochures, books, magazines. Magazines are the worst. We buy magazines solely based on the cover. The more sensational the headline and the cover, the more likely we are to buy the book or magazine. No question about it. Take a look at, start small. Baby steps. Take a look at your personal relationships. Am I judging this situation, person, institution, whatever the case might be, am I judging this thing solely based on aesthetics? What it or they look like? And if I do that, am I making the right decision, or am I ultimately going to cost myself and my employer money? Or if you're an entrepreneur, yourself money? If I'm approaching a customer, a client at a dealership, what am I looking at? Oh, geez, that trade-in's 4 months old. They must be buried. They could also have $1 bazillion. How many times have we looked at a customer pulling in the dealership with a 6-month-old car going, oh, God, they're buried. This ain't happening. Man, they better have perfect credit and about $25,000 in cash because that's how much water they're in. That's how flipped they are. Or this ain't happening. But like, bang. Where's the rookie? Have him go take this up. I ain't interested. Sure is the best move we ever made, Ernie. Amen to that, brother. So, or we get that up and they come in a 10-year-old Neon that's falling apart. They're all raggedy and they got 12 kids. Oh, God, these people's credits suck. These are get-me-dones. You know what I saw on a wall one day at a dealership, man? This is a big account of ours, and it really pissed me off. They had a board with all their deals for the day, written with shoe polish or something on a window. And they had a bunch of stars next to half a dozen names. I said, what are the stars for? Is that like a really big gross or something? Oh, no. Stars is rats spelled backwards. I'm like, seriously, dude? You know, credit challenge people. That's how they were going to identify them, as rats. As rats. We can stop doing this. You can stop doing it today. Stop doing it with your employees. Stop doing it at home. Stop doing it with strangers. Stop doing it on social media. Stop doing it. Then stop doing it in your hiring. For God's sake, stop doing it in your hiring. Please stop doing it in your hiring. Take a look several levels deep. Hold on, Dix. Dixie needs some food. Sorry about that. Real talk. I got Dixie the Wonder Dog with me. I did not judge that book by its cover. 90-pound hound dog. Dad, you want a dog? Dog's at a kill shelter. Yep, let's go get her. Bang, just like that. And I fell in love. Because of the way she is, not the way she looks. She's pretty cute, though. But the way she is. Let's hire differently. Let's take a look at that resume in a different light, if you would. Let's give more people a shot. I understand it is our job as leaders to surround ourselves with the highest quality talent that we possibly can. For sure. That's important. Culture and fit are very, very important. Diversity has importance. But the long-term play and the long-term development of that new hire is imperative to your long-term success and growth. Don't step over someone based on all the superficial things that we just sometimes gravitate towards, and it's easier for us to do as human beings. Just don't do it. Just stop. Just stop. See, it's kind of easy for us to get our head around this because we've done it for so long, and we're talking about millions of resumes, like literally millions, where this is like total it's complete second nature to us. And it's not to you, and we understand that, and that's why I'm going over this, obviously. Just have some faith. Faith is being sure of what you hope for and certain of things we cannot see. Have some faith that the person in front of you, even though they might not look like you want them to look, could in fact be the best choice. Give them a shot. Provided they interview well, provided everything else lines up, because we want the best person. Regardless of everything else, we want the best person, the best hire. So don't let the person's name, their zip code, any of those things cloud you in your decision. Hire the best person for that position. If they happen to be of a certain ethnic group, great. If it happens to help your diversity, awesome. But hire the best person, the best potential person for that position at your dealership. It'll pay huge dividends to you going forward. I'm talking huge dividends to you going forward if you do that. If you need help with that and kind of navigate that, reach out to us and let's have an actual conversation. Just like the rest of the world, dude. Zoom is fine. We're doing a lot of Zoom presentations. It's cool. It's nothing wrong with taking 5 minutes. It's a lot easier to have a conversation with another human being with body language. Tonality is obviously super important with body language, and then obviously the words that we say are important as well. But body language is very important. So you might want to get on a few Zooms. Set up a Zoom with us. Let us help you through some of this stuff. Whether you do business with us or not, don't matter. We just want to help you. We'll get you at some point. We'll get you at some point. You'll screw this thing up somewhere. And it's like, help. All right, I tried on my own. Help. I'm hiring the wrong people. Help. And we'll help you with that. All that glitters is not gold. Don't judge a book by its cover. You're going to be wrong a lot. If you folks are watching this on the replay, or going to be watching this on the replay, go ahead and throw some stories in there if you want. Later tonight, after especially on the YouTube channel, they do some different. Producer Dave does some re-uploading with that, and then we do some tagging and so on. But on the Facebook portion of it, in the Facebook page, if you want to put in some stories there, ask some questions, what have you, sometime later tonight, 9, 10 o'clock at night or whatever, I'm still working. I'll try to answer some of those for you. If not tomorrow at the absolute latest. Friday, like by far, is the worst day to have a podcast. It's like you can Google this and it's like not even close. Excuse me a minute. Not even close. I don't know why exactly, but that's the data. So we might actually spend a little money on this thing, and so more people can see it. We might run an ad with it so more people can see this, because I think it's a really important subject. It's really important, and hopefully I've given you some examples. Hopefully, if not, ask more questions, and I'll try to do better. Frankly. All right, Dix. Hold on. One more special treat. There you go, baby. Let me end up with. I said I'd get over I'll do this, so I'm going to give you my COVID immune system routine. All right, so take notes. So I am taking. So I think it's interesting. In some of the podcasts that I watch, have been starting to mention this. We talk about masks, we talk about social distancing, we talk about hand washing, we talk about hand sanitizer, we talk about PermaSafe, the product that we sell, which is freaking awesome. We talk about all that stuff. Nobody, hardly anyone, is talking about immune systems. So, one of the reasons I'm guessing that younger people are less susceptible to the virus has something to do with their immune systems. I'm guessing. But I've researched this quite a bit. And some of this is going to sound pretty outlandish, but here's what I'm doing. Look it up. I'm taking 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, 5,000. I'm taking 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. I believe, this is, again, I'm chimp-like in a lot of ways, so you might want to double-check this one. But I believe that somewhere around 80% of the COVID deaths are dramatically vitamin D deficient. So I've probably gotten a little bit too much sun, but I'm also taking 10,000 what's called IUs of vitamin D daily. That's a bunch. And I'm also taking 100 milligrams of zinc a day. 25. So the way I break down the vitamin C is 3,000 in the morning, 2,000 at night, 50 milligrams of zinc in the morning, 50 grams at night. And I'm also, this one you can Google all this stuff. I'm drinking Schweppes tonic water. Schweppes tonic water has something called quinine in it. Quinine helps build cells and cell mass to help your immune system. That, and I've been working out like a madman, so I'm in pretty good shape. I've been swimming a lot. That's kind of an orthopedic thing, but again, that puts me in pretty good shape. Here's going to be some haters. I've been on a very strict, that's not true. Well, yeah, it is true. A very strict carnivore diet for about 2.5 months now. All I eat is steak, chicken. I had salmon the other night. That's it. Just because of extreme weight loss, because that stuff, it's all the meat I'm eating is very lean. And I really don't want to eat fat. So I've been adding cheese to it, really delicious cheese. If you guys can find this cheese called champagne cheese, it's freaking awesome. But I've been eating cheese and some eggs, eggs with liver chunks in it, beef liver, tasty. And it's, yeah, if you research it enough, sorry vegans, but if you research it enough, it's really good for you. My only downfall is sugar, which is very, very bad. And I do that on weekends, and it's not good, and I'm trying to cut back. But my friend Joanna, an assistant, keeps buying me frickin' sugar and stuff I absolutely love. So it's been a little bit hard. But so that's my COVID immune system regime. Okay, totally away from judge a book by its cover. So let's wind this up. So just when you watch this, if you're watching this now or you watch this on the replay, and you get into this far into it, man, just start practicing. Just start practicing. It's a learned behavior to not judge a book by its cover. Just start practicing. Look at people differently. The content of their character. Who is this person really? What can they become? Because of the way that they look, what have they had to overcome? Right? Should that be part of our decision process? This person looks a certain way, so I'm assuming that they've had to overcome some pretty big obstacles to even to get where they are now, and now they've got the balls to want to be even better. And they're applying for this job? Man, that takes some nerve. That's one I want to pay attention to. For sure. Let's take a look at that in every hiring decision, in every interaction with every human being. All of them. Every single life. Let's take a look at every single person, every single situation. Am I judging this person based on the way that they look, act, talk, walk, the words that they use? Are they woke, unwoke? Am I judging them based on that? And if I come at them a little bit differently, if I can have a hard conversation with them, am I going to end up finding more common ground than uncommon ground? Can this person become a friend of mine, or at least a really strong acquaintance, an ally? Can this person do the job that I'm looking to fill at the dealership and develop and explode into something even greater so I can buy another store? Is that possible? It's possible if we're not focusing on their covers. So peel back the cover and let's see what's really, really there. I hope you got something out of today's show. I really do. If you did, share it out, tell a friend, get some other people watching, and that would be awesome. Love you all. And you're really good people. And we appreciate you. And with that, Producer Dave, I'm out. Bye, everybody.